today. We realize that busy schedules often preclude joining webinars. So as Ali mentioned, we're going to record our presentation today, and we hope that you'll share any insights that you find valuable. Sometimes these recordings are great to share with colleagues as you move along your integration journey. My name is Mike Frenzel. I'm the leader for MuleSoft's higher education practice. And as you might know, MuleSoft is the clear leader in all things integration. We've been part of the Salesforce ecosphere since 2018, so 6 years. And I'm lucky enough to have my colleague Ali with me. Ali Al-Rawi is a senior sales engineer here at MuleSoft. And Ali brings decades of experience in higher ed technology, both on the integration side as well as the back end side. So really lucky to have Ali with us today. We're also super excited to have some other experts in integration from our partners at NTT Data. So if you're not familiar with NTT Data, you should be. They're an 8-time MuleSoft Partner of the Year award winner, and they're a huge global partner for both MuleSoft and Salesforce. I'm sure they'll tell us a little bit more about NTT, but they do everything from managed services to implementation and more. Joining us from NTT are Josh Campanelli, he's a senior sales executive, and Mehul Sengupta, who is a lead engineer on their digital engineering side. So I'm going to pass things over to Ali to kick us off, but a quick reminder, use the chat functionality. We'll address Q&A as we move forward, but let's keep it as interactive as possible. One last housekeeping issue is our forward-looking statements. Most of what we're going to talk about today is current functionality that is readily available, but always make software purchasing decisions based on what is currently available. There's a chance that we might be talking about things that are still in development. So fair warning there. And actually, one more slide before I kick it off to Ali, and this is for those of you who are joining late. Thank you again. Thank you for those of you who are clients. Thank you for those of you who are interested in MuleSoft's approach. We really do appreciate your time and look forward to continuing our work or starting to work with y'all. So with that, let me pass the baton over to Ali.
Thank you very much, Mike. And I want to echo what Mike mentioned. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. We really appreciate spending the next maybe 45 minutes to an hour with us. And I'm assured that we will cover information that's going to be interesting for you. And let's get started. And we'll start it with just talking about why are we here? Why are we talking about integration? Integration existed because of the current situation that most of our higher education institutions are going through. So they have siloed legacy systems, whether they have on-premise, old applications, or they have invested into cloud-based applications, but still, it's a siloed, different systems. They have so many systems that they have to manage the information there, and it hosts the critical student information there. Second reason is that there is very, very limited real-time data. A lot of times that the staff or faculty within the organizations, they suffer from where do I go for latest information? How can I trust that I have the latest information here, that I'm looking at a report or looking at a screen that reflects all student information? And the last one would be is the inefficient processes. Because of the data is fragmented everywhere, because that caused that institutions have inefficient processes and they have to manage the data manually in these different systems because they just cannot trust their different processes. And for all these reasons, comes in a fact that our customers, they really care about their students. They really want their student to succeed. And part of their success, their student success, is the experience that they're having with their different institutions. And for that reason, around 87% of higher education leaders, they want to improve their student experience, and they are ready to spend on that fact. And also 81% of our students, they said that they should not have to provide the information in multiple systems. They would like to have a student 360, a true one, where wherever they go, whether they are looking at the LMS system or they are looking at their student information system, or they're looking at their, into the different other like financial aids or courses, they want to see the same data. So it's very, very important to have that data to be synchronized between these different systems. Okay, now taking that into the fact that when we deal with our customers, 94% of our higher education customers, they agree that having a holistic view of the learning data, the student data, will be beneficial for the institution and beneficial for our customers. And when we talk to our customers, they are going through different projects, whether it's their recruitment admission project or a student experience project, or managing their alumni, or just creating a CRM for their students and constituents. They need to have a true student 360 or constituent 360. So whether they are doing any of these projects or they just want to look at the information for their student and make sure that they are looking to a true latest information about their students. Now, for that, MuleSoft is a really, really great fit. Now, why MuleSoft will be a great fit? We have 4 different reasons. Because we help our customers integrate the information. So we help them unlock the data in their underlying systems and expose it so that they can perform their business processes with all the data from the different systems they have. We'll also provide our customers with an API management system that allows them to secure all the APIs they're going to expose and the APIs that they host, whether it's a custom build or a third-party build in-house. We also expand into other areas like automation. We help our customers also integrate or automate the manual processes, whether someone is logging into a system, a web system to download a spreadsheet, or going into another organization and exposing some data and download it into a flat file. So whatever the need is, and currently you do it as a manual process, we can also help you with that. And finally, we are expanding into artificial intelligence. We are integrating Einstein into our development tool to help you build faster and be proactive and utilize all the AI functionality that you can get from Salesforce. And for that reason,
I would say, Ali, one thing on note, just on that last slide there, just to jump into it for everyone, that is those 4 are really, really good points. And I think as you look at the landscape, there's a lot of talk right now about AI. I think even more automation. We're seeing it more and more in the higher ed at university and colleges with manual repetitive tasks that help streamline efficiencies there. We've done a couple different engagements with MuleSoft of late to help around that. And so I think there's a lot of really unique things that MuleSoft can do that can help really streamline your platform, whether it's your student information system or recruiting and admissions, that are really, really special. So those 4 are awesome, but I just want to say automation specifically in the higher ed space when it comes to universities has really, really been a home run of late. So yeah, really great stuff there on the MuleSoft product side.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Josh. And so going back, so based on that, if we look at how we rank in the industry, so you can see we are leader for both iPaaS and API management. We are also in the leader quadrant for low-code application platform, and we are being ranked as visionary for RPA and also for digital process automation. So we're adding a lot of new features, a lot of new functionality to our platform. Now, so for this webinar, we're going to focus mainly on the integration, and we're going to talk about integrating with the main source of your student information, which is student information systems. So let's talk about first our approach. Now, traditionally, most of our customers, they have been doing all the integration using custom scripts or using some other tools, using the traditional way of handling integration. Let's create a point-to-point integration and let's move the data and do it maybe on a batch, on a daily basis or monthly basis or whatever frequency. Now, that can solve the purpose, but probably for a short time. And our customers, they start to recognize after that the cost of maintaining all these integrations are so high that it's so expensive for them to maintain it. And that's because it's a point-to-point integration connectivity. It has legacy systems, legacy code, some custom code, and dealing sometimes with unstructured data. And for that reason, there is IT leaders, they say that integration has been a challenge for them to innovate and start to move their education institute for the future and provide additional or improve the services to their students or constituents. Now, what's different about MuleSoft is we have our own methodology. Now, we didn't invent this kind of methodology. It just we created the tools that will allow you to work better with the integration. And that's basically by creating the 3-layer architecture or the composable architecture. In a summary, the composable architecture is basically says that you need to create a 3-layer architecture. The first layer is the system layer, where you unlock the data from the underlying system. So whatever the system is, we have connectivity to it. So we can help you connect to the underlying system, expose the data into the system layer. Process layer is where your business rules, where your knowledge, whatever you want to do, you want to build it in the process layer. And the third layer is the experience layer, is where you specify how do you use the data, who has access to what, and you apply all your policies and security rules over there. Now, within this model, it has been proven that it's effective to reduce your technical debt, number one, because you can easily swap out the applications without affecting the integration. And number two, it helps you to reuse all these components over and over again. So instead of rebuilding the whole thing, if you have a need to move data to a new system, you can reuse the current code that you have already built. So reusability and agility is the best benefit from adopting to the composable model. Okay, now let's go to the topic of today, which is student information system. So I took some examples and I'm going to talk about my experience working for the past probably 12 years with higher education institutes. And we're going to start with the first system. So a lot of our customers, they run Ellucian Banner. Now, how did we see our customers using MuleSoft to integrate Banner within their organization? So there are different ways of integrating Banner. The first straightforward way is to use the database connector. Everyone knows the Lucian banner runs an Oracle database, and you can expose all the information in the database through the MuleSoft engine by utilizing the database connector. So database connector allow you to go and view the data, query the data, or call the thousands of PL SQL code that's inside Banner. Number two, you can utilize the REST connector, and the REST connector will allow you to connect to Ethos. So whether you have started to use Ethos, or you're thinking about it, or you are trying to see if it fits your need or not, then we have a connector that will allow you to connect to Ethos, provide the credential to logging in, and then consume all the data using the REST APIs that's available with Ethos. Now, Ethos, it's going to be especially important for the customers who have moved to the cloud. So if you have moved Banner from on-premise to the cloud, then most probably you're thinking of utilizing Ethos to connect. I've seen also certain customers who have used Ethos in a certain way. So they have configured the event there to connect to the RabbitMQ, which is the messaging queue behind Ethos, and allow them to configure event to broadcast all the changes that happens in Banner to the other systems. So for example, changes happen to the address of the students. You can create an event within Ethos and then publish that change into the message queue and then consume the data from the message queue. The other way, I've seen also customers use the ORDS, the Oracle data source, or the ORDS from the Oracle side, to allow themselves to call these APIs. And these APIs will expose the tables and procedures within the database as RESTful APIs and consume it to integrate the data with their other system. And the third way, and I didn't mention it here in my diagram because to be honest, I don't encourage people to do that, is by using flat file. If none of these ways satisfy your need, and the only way to help you integrate the data is through flat file, you can still utilize the file connector from MuleSoft to connect or consume these data, whether they are sitting on a file system or they are sitting on an SFTP server.
That's a good point, Ali. And I think just for everyone out there too, like obviously we think we have our tried and true way, and there's a best practice way that we try to take every single engagement when it comes to building your three-layer architecture and having your APIs. But also there are potential flexible ways to kind of to work around that. And I think I'll use case by case, but like Ali said, like the three-layer architecture really, really is the best way for that structure, that efficiency, and that automation there. So yeah, great point there, Ali, in terms of there could be multiple ways that you can kind of go about it sometimes. So yeah.
Okay, now Colleague. So Colleague, also another signal information system from Lucian, and it's almost the same way to connect to Colleague that we used to connect to Banner. So there is a way to connect to the underlying database, and that's, bear in mind that the only scenario that we'll be able to connect to if your Colleague instance is running Microsoft SQL database. If it's a Unidata, then it's going to be kind of more tricky situation, and we always encourage our customers in that case to move into utilizing Ethos to expose that data. So in this case, you can utilize Ethos or the message queue behind Ethos to get the data using the REST API, or using the connector to the message queue behind Ethos to consume these messages in a publish and subscribe model. And that works really well with the Colleague instance. And I don't want to also, I can go over some of the integration techniques that we have with Salesforce. So if you're interested in integrating with Salesforce, there are different connectors that you can use. So we have the general connector that will allow you to utilize the bulk API from Salesforce or use the data API from Salesforce, whether they are SOAP or REST. And also you can use the streaming API. So there's a way to configure MuleSoft to utilize the streaming API to stream the data into your Salesforce environment, or whether you are connecting to Data Cloud to push the data into your Data Cloud instance. And lately, MuleSoft has announced that we have the general availability for Einstein connector. So now if you want to utilize Einstein, there's a way to connect to Salesforce Trust Layer to expose the data there and connect it to your student information system. Now, for the customers who are running PeopleSoft, they are almost the same way. So there is the default way of connecting to the database, the Oracle database or SQL database behind the scene. Our database connector is versatile that connects to any type of database. You can also expose some of the data through the integration gateway from PeopleSoft, and that will expose it as a REST or SOAP APIs, and you can consume that with MuleSoft. And finally, we also provided native PeopleSoft connector that will allow you to connect MuleSoft engine to the component interface within your PeopleSoft environment to expose your data, whether you are inserting into PeopleSoft or consuming data from PeopleSoft. So as a final thing, I want to remind everyone that the MuleSoft Anypoint platform will help you to build the end-to-end connectivity. We provide you with more than 300 different connectors. These connectors will allow you to start fast and be faster as you build more and more components. It will provide you with a platform for resilient operation. So whether you are deploying it on-premise or in the cloud, we'll be able to adapt your architecture. And finally, accelerated delivery. So for every single project, the more project that you deliver, the faster and the more solid architecture that you will have, and the shorter period of time that you need to spend on building these integration by reusing all the components that you have already built. So with that, I'll hand it over to our friends at NTT Data just to talk about their offering and how they work with our customers.
Thank you so much, Ali. Really, really appreciate it. And I will go ahead and share my screen here. Just want to say thank you once again to everybody on the call, as well as Mike and Ali, your MuleSoft partnership. It really, really means a lot. And we're so happy to work with you and then also help everyone we can in the higher ed public sector space. So just for a little bit of agenda, we'll kind of, on our side, as relates to seeing some of the stuff around product, now we want to talk a little bit about implementation, right? That very equally as important next step for how you go about taking care of that streamlining of integration. So I'll kind of start from 30,000 feet and we'll get a little more granular as we go along in terms of maybe who we are, but also things to look out for. And part of what I want you guys to kind of, we think about this too, each and every slide, a little bit of a take-home message, right? What are things to think about when you're talking with your IT teams, you're having those Monday morning meetings, things to look out about for your roadmap for 2024, 2025 and beyond. Just some things to kind of be aware of out in the landscape as it relates to sort of the higher ed space. So as kind of kicking things off, as Mike, you said it so perfectly at the beginning, we are a strategic MuleSoft partner and a Salesforce Summit partner. But NTT Data as a whole is a top 10 global IT company when it comes to digital transformation services and consulting. And so when we think about partnering up with somebody in a partnership with NTT, to us, it's really about not only the short-term ROI, but that long-term roadmap planning. And so I think maybe even the school of thought, even a couple of years ago, was like, hey, we have our use case, let's get in there and do that. Now it really is trying to build that roadmap. The question we get offered so often too, when Mike and I and Ali and some of the AEs team up, it's sort of like, well, like how are we supposed to figure out what we can use MuleSoft? It's like, hey, MuleSoft for. It's like, hey, that's what we can help out for, right? We can accomplish your use case, accomplish some ROI, and then help build that roadmap for you, so you can see kind of what that plan kind of looks like. So always never lose sight of some of the long-term goals there. This next slide here, I think I want to take it at face value in terms of, obviously, I think it speaks a little bit to some of our consultants, our certifications. Who was on the call here is very well versed in a lot of this stuff and has a lot of this accreditation here. But to me, it's our partnership with MuleSoft. But I think it's important when you look out there in terms of that landscape, right? How it relates to how you implement MuleSoft. Number one is working with a certified MuleSoft partner in a full service, right? It's not just the development, it's the platform setup, it's the architecture, it's the advisory, it's the design, it's the build, and then it's the testing and the go live, making sure you're having all that space. Ali, you had mentioned stuff about the connectors, right? We have, if anybody has been on the Anypoint Exchange, if you haven't yet, please go. It's a really cool app store for MuleSoft. We have helped build a lot of the connectors on that site, and we built custom ones for our own IP, and we built public ones with MuleSoft in conjunction. So again, that's speaking to our relationship there. And the last thing is training. I would say over the last 6 months, every single client that we partnered with to come up with has brought this up compared to the previous couple of years where it wasn't really talked about a ton. When you are going through an engagement, what are you learning along the way? I think some of our most powerful engagements and opportunities are with clients that want to learn and knowledge share along the way, not just completing that work on our own, but want to have a good understanding. And so for us as being a leader and a premier training enablement partner, it's about office hours. It's about demo sharing, screen sharing messages and sessions, knowledge transfers, architecture design for future proofing for review for your IT teams as you go throughout your kind of landscape there. So more than just the development, also that enablement as well. I think it's really, really important when you talk about sort of how you go about that enablement and implementation process. And then obviously MuleSoft on its whole has a ton of courses and information on Trailhead and beyond when it comes to training. So using us to help partner with you all to bring your IT teams enablement along the way, I think is a really, really exciting thing when it comes to implementation. The next part, I think maybe the question that Mike and I and Ali and I sometimes get often asked the most is like, well, what happens post go live, right? I think there's always a rush to complete the work, but then it's always sometimes like, well, what's the next step? And my first question back, when you talk about your student information system, or let's say it's recruiting and admissions, or even financial information, right? You talk about those APIs, you talk about those systems. How mission critical are they? If they go down on Saturday night at 10 o'clock, is it okay to wait till Monday? Or do we need to have a solve and a fix right away that weekend, a plan of action in place, right? An SLA to make sure we're held accountable. So there's a lot of stuff here when it comes to MuleSoft specialties that I think is really, really important, especially when it comes to best practice and advisory. But just as important on that back end, when we talk about monitoring those APIs, I think it's really, really crucial to make sure you have them plan in place, whether it's your own IT team, whether it's your own partner, or if it's a chance where we partner together, we can provide some resources for that. But I think just determining what is sort of mission critical to your landscape when it comes to your APIs is a really, really valuable thing to be aware of when it comes to that monitorization in case something were to happen to them. So I think a really good idea, especially too, when Ali talked about API sort of kind of management, right? It's not just potentially MuleSoft APIs, it's a lot of other stuff you have in your portfolio too. So hopefully trying to bring a lot of that hopefully in-house for everybody. This is a really cool story. I'll just spend a minute here, but I think in terms of seeing not what's out on the Anypoint Exchange, maybe seeing something else in the landscape specific to you. So the University of Vermont, we actually helped build a customized D2L connector for the university for basically some of their API endpoints. And I think it just goes to sort of multiple ways you can partner with somebody. It's not just that idea of like, hey, we're using something that may be out there. If you have something specific to your university, whether it's your APIs or your systems, your integration, we can still help out. MuleSoft can still help out in that landscape. So again, finding that unique way to partner with one another, but also knowing that we have the capability to build custom connectors specifically to you, not just stuff that's on the public exchange as well, which I think is a really, really cool thing there. As we go to our next slide, I want to pause. Any questions anybody has overall about MuleSoft as a product, licensing, implementation before we go into sort of our next phase here? Feel free to put them in the chat or raise a hand. Happy to answer anything as we go along the way. In terms of the implementation approach, again, it can be case by case. I think we see that a lot in terms of unique situations for every single school, university, in the public sector. But also, I think it's important to have guidelines, and it's something that I work at length on with Ollie in the pre-sale cycle. Right, is understanding your ROI more than just a use case, right? And whether it's getting off a legacy system or getting away from point to point, it's like, what value are we taking away from this? Is it saving your team time? Is it saving your team cost? What are some of the things we can help from a business objective standpoint? And then also someone like Mehul comes in on the solution architect side, then designing that around that use case and that ROI to provide that value to you all. So each one of these steps here, there's a lot on here. Don't read about it all right now. But each one of these steps are really, really important to the process. None one more important than other, whether it's the initiation, that scoping solution, building, and then obviously the go live support on the back end, and then giving you solid deliverables as you go along, right? Making sure there's a clear understanding for what we're accomplishing, but also you're getting that good ROI for what it relates to you and specifically to your university there. So I think everything on here is really, really important when it comes to an implementation standpoint. As we go to our next couple slides, and I want to use this to kind of parlay into Mehul's point of perspective when it comes to architecture. Sometimes we hear from university or schools, maybe they have too big of a roadmap or maybe too small of a roadmap, right? Thinking of, hey, we're not sure if we can sort of kind of fit in sort of how this landscape looks for whether it's MuleSoft or implementation. And this is just, there's again, a lot of data in here, but just that idea of there's multiple ways to partner with one another. So whether it's in your, one of our use cases there was around PeopleSoft and higher ed development, we helped build reusable APIs. It was a pretty standard one. The next one, we had an online school, was a colleague and banner use case, but they were completely brand new to MuleSoft. It was the first time they were ever looking at it. And so we knew that we had to take certain steps in that first discovery phase, right, in those first couple of weeks to ensure there was good understanding and learning, as well as obviously accomplishment in the development side. And then on a larger university side, we work with people that have had MuleSoft for 20 plus years, right? So when maybe sometimes you go into an engagement and we start out with architecture review, code review, right? Helping understand what that roadmap is. So finding out different ways to sort of partner with one another, knowing that every single way is unique, as well as working with associations and nonprofits. The School of Business one we had is a really, really good one where they specifically, and Mehul was a part of this, talked to us about making sure that we had managed services on the back end, monitoring of APIs on the back end, because they were really worried about that. And they actually put it in their budget, right? Because they didn't have a big IT team. And by the end of our engagement, which is about 7-8 months, they were sort of like, didn't need our managed service team. They had full and complete enablement inside their IT team to help with some small time development and manage and monitor their APIs in the back end. So hopefully then obviously saving them a ton of money for their 2025 budget fiscal year. So again, making sure it's not just about the work, there's a good, clear understanding as well. And then you see the D2 Tech there on the university side. So working with small, medium, and large schools alike, but also knowing that every case is going to be unique, and that we try to obviously then work with you and how big your bandwidth is, your IT team is, and making sure we're helping out there. So I want to stop there. That was a lot there. I want to make sure anybody has questions in the chat, feel free to put them up there. I now want to pass it over to Mehul, who's going to talk a little bit now about, Ali talked about some licensing, architecture on the product side. Now let's get some real world implementation. So I'll pass it over to you, Mehul, if you want to kick things off.
Sure. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for the introduction. And so yeah, this is one of the implementations which we have in place, the actual architecture for one of the business schools. So they had this banner and Illusion ethos queues, and they needed to sync the student information into Salesforce. And apart from that, they also wanted near real-time sync and also more or less automated error handling, which they were suffering a lot because the earlier systems needed a lot of manual intervention. So on this slide, you can see the overall network architecture depicting all the components as they have been linked and all the authentications, all the protocols which we have used. And it is just not just limited to this part, but we can have, like various combinations. For example, if you see the email connector SMTP, so here, as per the requirement, we have used basic authentication, but that is not where it stops. So we have custom connectors specifically built for Outlook or specifically built for Slack on the endpoint exchange, as Josh was saying. And we have other connectivity options, other security options such as OAuth, and that's what we can leverage. So Not much on this slide, more to discuss. So Josh, if you can move to the next one, please. Yeah,
Yep,
thank you.
absolutely.
So this is the actual API-led connectivity which we have developed for the customer. As you can see, actually there are a lot of things here, but it will all start to make sense once we move to the next slide. But just an overview before we proceed further. So as you can see, we have two layers defined here: system and process layer. Again, this is specifically for that customer. It's not that that we do not need to have an experience layer. This was specifically their use case. If you have any requirement for experience layer, for example, in this case, like a website accepting information, a mobile application accepting information, then definitely on top of this, we would have the experience layer. But in this case, it was more of a scheduler based job. So that's why we have the process and system layer only. So this is where the flexibility of MuleSoft comes in, that we can, customize the layers and customize the things as we require. And as you can see, there are two process APIs, which basically one is linked to the ethos queue, and another one is connecting to the banner APIs, again, via the ethos queue, which is sitting, ethos proxy, which is sitting on top of that. And once those information are received, the process API basically does all the transformation and the pretty-filling of the data. And once that is done, so we have the system APIs, which are sitting on top of the on top of the end systems and exposing the data, and it enables us to have data synchronization process. And apart from that, we also have the fallback mechanism, where we have the object store as the temporary storage, dead letter queues, which are again any point MQ. So these are pretty much out of the box capabilities of MuleSoft. So that is also something which MuleSoft supports and help us, to have an earlier go to market. So any
Yeah,
questions?
this is a yeah, and before I go to the next slide too, Mehul, another great example of out of the box functionality, some customization, and then Mehul and the team provided the university with basically like a 20-page document, right? All the architecture laid out, development laid out. So now they have that for everyone. That some that comes in new to the department. It's sort of like, hey, how did you guys build this? What happened? It's all there laid out for them, right? And there was an extensive knowledge transfer done behind the scenes as well too. So again, just multiple ways to kind of go about it, but making sure we're trying to stick to that 3-layer architecture as best as possible to give them what they need on their side from an implementation standpoint. So, and then, yeah, Mehul, you got a couple sort of kind of think of these kind of takeaways. It's sort of kind of the pain points they're experiencing. If you're out there at a university level in your IT department, you're talking about some of these things, takeaways here for things to look out there when it comes to some of the benefits of MuleSoft. So Mehul, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So the current integration which they have, it was more like a point-to-point kind of an architecture. So they had frequent code issues and a lot of manual work which needed to be done. So basically they had, I can remember it was around a 4 or 5 member team, which was specifically sitting and looking for the issues which were happening now and there, not only with the code, but also with the, like the student information. And as we will see in the next slide, MuleSoft went in and relieve them of that load, so that they can focus on other work which they had. And also some of the pain points was out of the box capabilities which were not already present in the earlier integration. And then again, the automation for error handling, and it was also higher processing time. And again, this was one of the biggest pain point: high maintainability due to complex code. This also we realized when we went into the actual earlier code, in spite of we having a specialist on those fields. So it was really difficult to debug and find out what really was going on behind the scenes. So that is something which was really a painful issue. And yeah, Josh, next slide, please.
Great.
Yeah. So, and now we have the solution. So first of all, API-led connectivity. So it's not only with Banner. So tomorrow, if they say they have another system, let's say they have Colleague or any other system, so the APIs which are made on the system layer, so basically they are reusable. And oftentimes it happens that we don't even need to create newer data points. So the existing ones all time work. So that is something which is really a key pointer over here. And apart from that, we focused on the automation of the error handling and the retry capabilities. So as I mentioned, so the human intervention was greatly reduced, and this was something which they were really happy about. And apart from that, as also on the diagram we show, so object store and anypoint MQ, we had the fallback mechanisms out of the box. So we did not need to depend on any other third-party products. It's not that if there is a preference for third-party products, definitely we do have the support for that from MuleSoft side also. But these are already on the out of the box, so it like it facilitates the development time, reduces the effort, and enables us to go live earlier. And apart from that, with enhanced batch processing, we just managed to reduce the processing time, which was earlier over 4 hours or 5 hours. And we just managed to do it within 1.5 hours with the parallel processing. And also we had some capabilities where we could dynamically define the parameters, and even the parallel processing could be configured, like how many processes you want to run together. So everything was customizable, and that is what we achieved using MuleSoft. And then again, coding which was made easier, and also we provided enablement. And since it was not as much of a learning curve, so it was quite easily graspable by the customer. And now, as Josh already mentioned, they don't need a managed services team, and they are good to move on their own, so that if any issues are coming, so they can look into it themselves. So Josh, if I mean, can you go back to 2 slides before? I just want to correlate the first 3 points.
Yep. Let me go up here. Here we go.
Yeah. So now this will make sense. So as I mentioned, so for example, the dead letter queue, the DLQ, and the object store. So they are basically part of the automation. So which was mentioned over there, the error handling and the retrial capabilities, API-led connectivity for reuse. So that that also is depicted by the system layer and process layer on all the system APIs over there, all the process APIs there. So they now line up to those pointers. I believe that is something which we are looking out for. And out of the box capability, again, we have the object store and anypoint MQ, which reduces the efforts and help us to go live faster. So yeah. So any questions so far?
Looks like we have one in the chat from Charles. I don't know, Mike and Ali and Maho, can you guys see that there? Got a question coming in. Thanks so much.
Charles, yeah, and this is, there's no kind of perfect solution for the issues with getting or implementing change data capture from Banner. There are some challenges with the design that they have with the message queue. What I have found in one scenario, one of the customers, what they have deployed an APIs, and these APIs are main responsibility is just to define what are the changes or what changed in the data so they can replicate it. And the way, and I think also NTT Data have implemented one solution for one of the customers is they build I think it was a database table, Josh, do you remember? Or it was a queue, and they hashed the data from the customer that's coming in from Banner. And every time they receive a change, they compare it with the hashed record, and they verify if that record is still the same or it has been changed. If it's changed, then they will apply it or send it to be processed. These are some of the techniques that you can utilize to capture the changes and make sure that these are the changes that you need to apply to the other systems.
Excellent. Oh, we got another question there. Great question. Any integration solution for Oracle and PeopleSoft there?
Well, we have a really good number of customers who are implementing the MuleSoft with their PeopleSoft. A lot of them, they utilize the direct connectivity with the integration gateway with PeopleSoft, and they utilize it to get the data or push data into the APIs for PeopleSoft. We are, if you want to reach out to your account executive, we'll be more than happy to set you up with these customers, and they can share with you their experience. They can share with you the way they handle the integration between their PeopleSoft environment and the other external systems, whether it's a LMS system or CRM system, and they can share their knowledge with that.
That's a great point, Ali, and that actually, and great question there. I think was what is next steps, right? How can we figure out some of the things, business, or you're part of the centralized IT university, you know, POCs and demos, right? Like let us help you find those use cases, find that roadmap, join webinars, stuff we're doing right now, architecture workshops, case studies and reference calls. Right to your point, Ali, we are happy to get you any number of references from previous universities we work with, either just on the MuleSoft product license side or the integration side. As it comes to us specifically in NTT, we have lots of Oracle and PeopleSoft use cases, as well as MuleSoft on the product license side. And then obviously, and like, I love, and I know Ali does too, I mean, who does a great whiteboarding session, right? Hey, let's get in a room and talk about some of the things you want to accomplish. So again, just any number of ways, but I think it's always starting off with say, hey, what is some business ROI you'd like to see? What are some of the systems you have in place? And then how we merge those two together, right? So a lot of good things that we can help, and Ali and myself will help out a lot of that with the AE on Mike's team to help out in that pre-sales cycle, help determine that roadmap and that expertise there.
That's a great point,
great question
Josh.
there.
So many times you get IT understanding that creating a scalable architecture is a big job, and they need help selling it internally to all of the stakeholders. And I think not only can we help, but the partners at NTT Data are great at that as well. And it's all about ROI. It's all about scalability. It's all about prepping your institution for long-term growth. So really excited about that. Any other questions cropping up?
That's what I was to say. That Mike, that's what I had. If I want to pass it back to you and Ali to any final thoughts or any other questions from everybody else in the chat here.
Awesome. That was great. I think we did a fantastic job, if I do say so myself, in creating kind of a very consumable, approachable description of how we approach a very complex matter. And to everybody online, we'd love to have you guys reach out. Again, we can send out the link for the recording so you can socialize this amongst your institution. But if you do have any questions, our contact information is there. We're easy to get a hold of. And we would love to chat more with you and figure out how we can help your institution make some critical needed changes. Ali, anything else from your end?
No, thank you very much for your attendance. And just to want to reiterate the point that I think tried to make earlier. Integrating with your student information system, it's not, there's no one way of doing it. There are multiple ways of doing it. Depends on your organization. Depends on how you're going to use the data. So don't stress yourself with the, with the task of trying to define that. Reach out to us. Reach out to NTT Data. Let us work with you on what it would be the best way to expose or unlock the data in your student information system so that you have the best experience for your students.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks to our partners at NTT and all of the attendees. Appreciate the time, and hope everybody has a good rest of their day.
Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.